Good evening, I'm Ruth Barrage. Governor Gretchen Whitmer just concluded her 5th State of the State address, and we are ready to take a look at it and analyze it.
I'm Tara Nasher. The address took place in front of a joint session of the Michigan House of Representatives and the Michigan Senate, both of which are now controlled by Democrats. And for the first time ever, Michigan has its first black Speaker of the House and its first female majority leader. Joining us tonight to talk a little bit more about this speech, Jason Cable-Rowe of Rowe Strategies, a Republican, and Democratic strategist, Greg Bowens, and we appreciate both of you coming here. Let's get started. Yeah, let's get started. I'd love to get your take, both of you, on just the general perception of her speech. To me, we were just speaking before we started, I felt it was very confident, maybe compared to years past. Of course, it's back in person after COVID, and she was joking, very celebratory, just almost talking about things in a very light manner. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that, being back in person set a stage for government that we haven't seen in a long time. If you recall, her last State of the State was on a factory floor.
Right.
And it gave that sort of impression of us working to get Michigan back to work. Now, of course, this was in the middle of COVID. We were still sort of suffering from that, but the backdrop does matter as much as anything that you have to say. So this presented a picture of everything is okay. We're going to get through this.
But is everything okay? Is everything okay? Are we all on the same page in the same room? Although in that room there were mostly Democrats, right, with the majority. But Jason Cable-Rowe, when you take a look at this speech, what's missing for you?
Well, I find it interesting that she skipped over right to work. She doesn't have to do any lifting on that. And I think had she brought it up, she would have probably attracted a lot of criticism from the business community. And right now, the new majority is going to have a honeymoon. And if she drops that hot potato in their lap, they're going to be dealing with that. And I think that's what would have been the takeaway from this speech if she had brought it up.
But what would you have hoped to hear? You know where she stands on right to work.
Well, let's lay it out there. We know it's part of the Democratic agenda. Democrats are already talking about, bringing legislation to the floor. So we know what's going to happen. The fact that she omitted it, I think, is interesting. What I did hear is a lot of spending and not a lot of price tags on that spending. When she took office, the fiscal year budget for that year was $55 billion. The new fiscal year budget is going to be $20 billion more. She has grown state government by 27% in just 4 years, and we have record surpluses right now. And we heard about a few targeted tax cuts, but I think there's a lot more we could be doing with that $9 billion surplus to lower the cost of living for every Michigander rather than just a select few.
We got record surplus because you guys are running around out there taxing old people and retirees. And
I think it's federal dollars that are that surplus.
I have plenty of people that I know who moved from Michigan, changed their principal residence from Michigan to Florida because they were so ticked off about that tax thing that you guys did under Snyder.
Well, I'm happy for their emotions, but what they did do is move to a place where the cost of living and the tax rate is significantly lower. Yeah. Not enough people did that for us to lose an entire congressional district out of the state here. We have been, for every redistricting for my lifetime, lost seats in the state of Michigan. And once again, we did. So all the rosy talk that we saw up there has nothing to do with the reality of the struggles of Michiganders.
Yeah, it wasn't that we lost people, it's that we didn't grow as fast as the other states did. And I think by changing this tax, it will actually bring people back.
All right, we're talking about spending and the credits, but the taxes, immediate tax relief when it comes to either, retirement or the families getting money in their pocket. Yet we're talking about pre-K for all, a blanket across, every child that's 4 years old should be able to go to preschool. That costs families a lot of money, but yet we didn't hear about how it's going to be paid for.
Yeah,
well, that's a lot of money.
We get that in the budget address. This is not about getting down to the details of how we do every single thing.
Sometimes we do hear where the money would come from. It sounds like it's going to come from the taxpayers.
Well, it's going to come from that $9 billion surplus.
Let's talk for a moment about the fact that this economy needs to continue to grow in the state of Michigan. And this governor has been criticized often for being somewhat of a deterrent in many Republicans' eyes to business coming to this town and to this state. She's proposing $13 billion in projects, battery plants, the big three, big investments coming here. This is stuff that Republicans would probably get on board with, I would think.
Oh, there will be some, but let's face it, this is corporate subsidies. This is transfers from the taxpayers, working class people that are paying taxes. Those dollars, rather than going into roads, going into education, going into healthcare, lots of ways that would improve our lives and lower the cost of living. We are giving corporate subsidies, taxpayer-funded subsidies, to multinational corporations. Now, she had done more during COVID to kill small businesses in this state. We lost more businesses here than any other state in the region. Our recovery was slower than any state in the region. She's done nothing for the small businesses that are struggling, but she wants to give billions of dollars in taxpayer-funded subsidies to these companies.
But one tough nerd 10 years ago would have told you that attracting $13 billion of battery production and big three investments is a good thing, even with corporate subsidies.
Okay, but go look at the actual surveys of corporate CEOs on what the factors they look at when they decide on where they're going to put new facilities. This is near the bottom of the list, but the other, on the top 10, the other 9, we are exceptionally poor, and those are public policy issues that we could be fixing, and we wouldn't need to bribe them with those dollars because those other things would make it an attractive environment.
Greg, is it bribing or attracting?
You know, I call the Republicans the horse and buggy crew because when it comes to subsidies, they're for it all, except when it comes to green stuff. And when the green stuff, like the batteries that are coming here, that could possibly make Michigan the #1 producer of electric batteries in the country and compete with the rest of the world, that's huge. That's huge, and that is the future. And so while I can appreciate the things that you're saying in relationship to this, you're talking as if the Republicans didn't set the foundation for the corporate subsidies. You guys have never saw a corporate subsidy that you didn't like.
Well,
so now all of a sudden you don't want to give GM money? Really?
I don't know that we've ever been the party out there advocating for giving corporations taxpayer dollars. We are talking about direct cash infusions into General Motors and other multinational corporations. When you're driving down your road and you got potholes, I think you're more concerned that your state is not doing the things to pave your roads, to take care of your schools, to do all the things that we expect government to provide for. When I pay my taxes, I'm not thinking, oh joy, General Motors gets to have my money. That's not why we pay taxes, to give it to corporations, and that's what this is.
You know, this
and
is
you can dress it up however you want, but at the end of the day, that's what it is.
It's like you're shifting to somehow.
I'm not shifting to anything.
All right. Let's listen. Will this all be solved when we get toll roads in the state of Michigan? By the way, that is the topic of Let It Rip coming up on Thursday night. We'll look forward to talking about that. But Taryn, there's a lot else that the governor spoke about. When we talk about women's health, that was definitely a topic that got a lot of applause. The 1931 repeal, something that she talked about earlier tonight.
And let's take a listen really quickly about what she had to say to the crowd tonight.
To repeal our extreme 1931 law banning abortion. And I want to thank the Progressive Women's Caucus for their leadership on this issue, and Representatives Pohutsky and Senator Geis for introducing legislation to get it done. And while we're at it, let's repeal other dangerous laws prohibiting people from accessing reproductive health care or shaming them for seeking it in the first place. Let's repeal outdated laws restricting who you can marry, and let's expand Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act . Let's expand the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act so you can't be fired or evicted for who you are or how you identify or who you love. That's your business.
Question here, Jason, and I guess it can apply to really any issue right now that the governor had introduced a proposal. You have a majority of Democrats in the House and the Senate. How do you look at that? I mean, is this going to be an uphill battle for Republicans no matter what is brought to the table?
Well, I mean, just like when the Democrats were in the minority, I mean, it's difficult to play a role. I think the biggest challenge is going to be for Speaker Tate to make sure that all 56 of his Democrats show up on every vote, because he doesn't have a margin. And so if somebody gets sick or has some personal issue that prevents them from being in Lansing, I think there's more Democrats that are in vulnerable seats going into the next election than there are Republicans. And so some of the votes that come to the floor of the House in particular could be dangerous for a Democrat in their reelection, where I don't think Republicans are going to face that same situation.
You know, that's baloney, because what we've done is righted the ship. Republicans were getting elected in overwhelming seats and represented a smaller percentage of the voting population because of gerrymandering. That's gone now. So the idea that somehow Republicans are going to get their stuff together and elect a bunch of people, that's not going to happen.
Seem to be
man.
very comfortable with that two-seat majority.
I want you to hold your thoughts for a moment,
Yeah.
because this conversation continues on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our coverage of Governor Gretchen Whitmer's State of the State address. Democrats now rule, as we mentioned, both the Michigan House and Senate, so it's no surprise that they view things differently than the governor.
Yeah, here's Michigan Senate Republican leader Eric Nesbitt with his response to Governor Whitmer's address. If we could take a look at some of that.
Hi, I'm Eric Nesbitt, Senate Republican leader. Governor Whitmer just spoke to you from the Capitol building. It's a beautiful setting and a building we should all be proud of. It's a long way from here. This is where our focus needs to be right now, because far too many Michiganders are struggling to afford everyday necessities. By now, you know the numbers, because you see them every time you visit the grocery store. Your cereal and the milk you pour onto it costs more. Your bread and the butter you spread on it costs more. Your meat and your potatoes, your coffee and your creamer, your bacon, and of course your eggs, $5 a dozen. This has been going on for over a year now, and every single day of that year there have been Michiganders, our neighbors, our friends, sometimes our own family members, who have had to choose between buying the food they need for their families and heating their homes, or paying their rent, or making their car payment. Governor Whitmer had multiple opportunities to provide you with real relief, to put more money, your money, back in your pocket. But she failed you by vetoing each proposal that was sent to her. She failed the new parents who needed a little extra help buying diapers and baby food. She failed the family already struggling to send their daughter off to college. She failed the retired couple who just wanted to buy Christmas presents for their grandkids. This is a fundamental difference between Republicans and Democrats. In this time of economic turmoil, Senate and House Republicans believe you know how best to spend your money. The governor and Democrats believe it is they who know how to spend your money best. Republicans want to take the governor's claim that she is finally ready to lower taxes seriously. But actions speak louder than words, and for the past 4 years, her actions have been of someone who wants to take money out of your pocket, not put any money back in. Remember, she began her tenure as governor by proposing a gas tax increase of 45 cents per gallon and increasing taxes on small businesses by 40%. The governor says all the right things about working across the aisle, but the truth is that she set a record during her first term for vetoing bills, many which Republicans and Democrats worked together to pass. More vetoes than Governor Engler, Governor Snyder, or even Governor Granholm. House and Senate Republicans will continue to try to work with the governor where we can, because that's what you expect us to do. It's what you need us to do. We will not give up our efforts to promote the rights of parents, to improve the reading and math scores of our children, to make our neighborhoods safer and our economy stronger, and to give families relief from record high prices, not by growing government, but by letting you keep more of what you have earned. But to do so, Michiganders desperately need their governor's actions to finally match her words. Relief is needed now, not some phased-in plan that eventually provides relief 4 years from now, as the governor and Democrats have proposed. Because only together can we finally provide immediate relief now to working families and seniors on a fixed income, struggling to afford day-to-day life in this great state. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and God bless the state of Michigan. Good night.
That's a Republican response for the governor's speech today. We have a Republican response here with Jason Cable-Rowe, who is a GOP strategist, someone who's been around the block, literally, in Capitol Hill and here, and Democratic strategist Greg Bowens, who himself for decades has really been a part of the political sphere. I got to go right to you about this because, look, here's the deal. The Republicans have been saying for a while that these Democrats, both in Washington and Lansing, they take out the checkbook and they run away. and then you can't get it back, and you got trillions of dollars in Washington, millions of dollars in Michigan being spent, and at the end, the people who pay for that, because of inflation, are everyday folks. What do you say to that?
That was a great campaign ad if the election were still going on. The election is over. It's time to govern.
But Greg, what about that? What about spending too much?
The governor has addressed the issues related to going to the store by talking about childcare, early childcare, by talking about repealing the retirement tax, by talking about lowering the cost of education and increasing the number of people who have a degree from, where it is 49% now to 60% by 2030. And so all these things are initiatives that put more money back into people's pocket. The governor's not in control of the price of beef.
Well,
I mean, seriously, come on.
Well, Jason, you just heard, what he said. Is the child tax credit, or when it comes to the retirement, repealing that tax, is that enough? She promised immediate relief right now.
Well, let's talk about the earned income tax credit, however it's renamed, working tax credit, whatever it is. Why is it not happening right now? The need is right now. The surpluses are right now. Why would we introduce a tax credit to help people during these tough times that doesn't even take effect until next year? So I think that's the first problem with that. Going back to the pre-K that you mentioned, it sounds great, but guess what? K through 12, we don't even do well. And now all of a sudden we're going to wrap up daycare and call it education and dump a lot more money, but we don't even know how much because that hasn't been specified. But in her own press release, she mentioned this would save some families $10,000 a year. So we should call this what it is, which is taxpayer-funded daycare for people that can't afford daycare.
But it's not daycare.
But it is. I mean, at the end of the day, what is pre-K? Those of us that have had kids know we're trying to find somewhere to stick our kid, and maybe they learn how to put a square in a round hole or a round.
It's supposed to advance our children to be competitive.
I get all that, but we're
Rude.
talking
You are
about
cold.
even more spending and more programs. And the reason that people can't afford daycare is because everything costs too much. And I reject the idea that the governor doesn't have an impact on inflation in two areas. One is energy. She has been very hostile to energy development in Michigan. She has pushed for the close of Line 5. Whenever you drive up the cost of oil and natural gas, that's going to have an impact on everything that we consume in the state. And when you look at how she handled COVID, all the dollars that were going to people, they stopped working. They left the workforce because they were getting enough money to not work and stay at home.
But that
meant we
run
had
out.
labor shortages. That meant, and we still have labor shortages. We still know restaurants and shops that don't run normal hours who are now in some cases paying twice as much in labor costs. And guess what? That drives up the cost of everything that we consume. So she has not addressed any of that. She's not done anything to lower the costs. All she's done is take transfers of taxpayer dollars to pay for things for some people, but not all.
I got to ask you, Greg, about the spending because you didn't address it right away, and I'm asking you again. The spending that Democrats are accused of doing recklessly, both in Washington and Lansing. Is it a problem that you recognize that could be addressed?
No, I don't think that it is a problem. When he starts talking, I want to go, can I please have more porridge, sir? Please. Either way, he doesn't even want 4-year-olds to be able to get an early education so they can get a head start by the time they get to kindergarten.
We're not doing K through 12 good. Why are we going to add on more bad education programs?
I think there's a lot to look at
in every category.
In terms of teacher shortages, where these people all come from, the staffing. I mean,
we have big challenges ahead of us, and it's going to take money to fix those challenges. So I'm not afraid of the spending. What I am afraid of is the priorities. The priorities that you just laid out here in criticizing wanting kids to have pre-K because what? Poor people can't afford it. That's what you said.
We aren't even doing K through 12 good. Why don't we focus on improving the quality of education that we have rather than creating?
Let's wrap that one up right now. Yeah. What?
My guess is you're not going to agree on this one. I don't know. If I was a betting man, I'd say you're not.
A lot of work to be done.